What are voiced and voiceless consonants? And why do you need to know that? Привет! Сегодня we'll explore the idea of voiced and voiceless consonants in Russian. First of all, it will certainly make it easier for you to pronounce some Russian words. And secondly, they will sound more accurate as well. Many beginner learners make this mistake. They are challenging themselves to pronounce each letter the same way as it is written, which is, in many cases, not what you're supposed to do. To illustrate what I'm talking about, compare, please.
Listen properly.
Всё, всё. Вкусно, вкусно. Я готов, я готов. Площадь, площадь. Из Калифорнии, из Калифорнии. В Турции, в Турции. What have you noticed? The first time I'd pronounce each word, it must have sounded more effortless and natural, unlike the second time when I'd enunciate certain sounds. For instance, in these examples, you gotta turn a voiced consonant into a voiceless one. In fact, it's a much simpler and more natural process than it sounds in theory. Voiced and voiceless consonants exist in many languages, including English, but there are certain differences between using them in English and in Russian. Compare these English words: zip, sip, gap, cap, bug, pug. The difference is in the first sound of each word. And these are the examples of voiced and voiceless consonants in English. Z, S, G, K, B, P. The same sounds exist in Russian too. Z, S, G, K, B, P. Now let's look at all the paired voiced and voiceless consonants in Russian and notice how you will be making the same mouth movements for the consonants that belong to the same pair. B, P, V, F, G, K, H, D, T, Z, S, Ž, Sh. The name voiced consonants implies that you need to add voice to use your vocal cords to pronounce them. And voiceless consonants don't require voice to be added. You can do without. Just the physical traction will suffice. P, F, K, H, T, S, Sh. You're just making a physical movement, pushing some air out, with no need to use your vocal cords. Now try to pronounce voiced consonants without using your vocal cords. Try it. See? You'll just get a voiceless consonant instead. Try to say B with the same mouth movements, but without adding voice. You'll get P, B, P. V without voice turns into F, V. So that's what voiced and voiceless consonants are across various languages. Many languages have very similar sounds. I hope it makes sense. Now let's compare the way voiced and voiceless consonants are used in Russian and in English. In English, for instance, a voiceless S can turn into a voiced Z at the end of words. It will depend on the preceding sound, although you might not even notice that. Books, cats, cups. In these examples, S is following another voiceless consonant and thus stays voiceless too. But in words where S is following a voiced consonant or a vowel, it will no longer stay an S. It will turn into a Z. Dogs, stars, leaves, days, ideas, In Russian, voiceless consonants can become voiced too, and vice versa. Only, unlike in English, in Russian, any voiced consonant at the end of words would become voiceless. That's why you will say in Russian «Я готов», not «Я готов». «Будь здоров», «Еще раз», not «Еще раз». No need to enunciate the last sound. Друг, not друг. Олег, четверг, хирург, миллиард. Russian is a language that gravitates towards speed and therefore efficiency. We can't slow down to enunciate voiced consonants at the end of words in Russian. That's why any voiced consonant at the end of a Russian word will turn into its voiceless counterpart. Let's look at some more examples. Город, Мадрид, сад, велосипед, зуб, лоб, хлеб, арбуз, глаз, мороз, против, лев, остров. All the Russian male surnames that end with ov will also be pronounced with f at the end. Чехов, Булгаков, Лермонтов. And how about these words? Муж, ёж, ложь. Remember, zh and sh are never soft in Russian. So with or without a soft sign, zh at the end of a word will be pronounced as sh. Ложь. So in Russian, consonants can be voiced and voiceless, and they in turn can also be hard or soft. For example, b is voiced. In the different words, it can sound as a hard b or a soft d. P is voiceless, and it can also be a hard p or a soft p, and so on, with an exception of the consonants that are always hard or always soft in Russian, right? So if there is a soft voiced consonant at the end of a Russian word, it will turn into its soft, voiceless counterpart. Грязь, not грязь. Площадь, not площадь. Лошадь, медведь, лебедь, голубь, морковь, любовь, церковь, обувь, кровь. Now, because of devoicing, some words that are spelled differently will sound exactly the same in Russian. Кот, кот. Гриб, гриб. Лук, лук. Париж, Париж. Compare it to English, where you have to enunciate the sound at the end of a word. There is no way you can pronounce dog as dock or cab as cap, right? And in Russian, you have to muffle a voiced consonant at the end of a word, make it voiceless, and that's the difference. Now, you might wonder why a voiced g has two voiceless counterparts, k and h. In almost all the words, the final g will turn into a k. Друг, берег, снег, шаг, творог. An exception would be the Russian word for God, Бог. Here, g turns into a h, Бог. G will also become h in the middle of these words. Мягкий, мягко, легкий, легко. This process is called assimilation. It develops naturally in different languages and basically exists to help us pronounce words easier. Say, in fluent English speech, you sometimes blend two or more neighboring sounds into one. For instance, you never say handbag, you say a handbag, or it's not a cupboard, but a cupboard. In Russian, a preceding consonant would typically assimilate to a following sound. It means that a voiced consonant followed by a voiceless consonant will become voiceless itself. And the other way around, a voiceless consonant followed by a voiced one will become voiced too. Let's look at some common examples. Всё, встреча. There is no need to enunciate V here. It kind of blends into the following sound. The voiced V here is right before a voiceless S. So V also turns into a voiceless F to make it easier to pronounce the word. It would be difficult to say всё, встреча, right? That's why you say всё, встреча. How would you pronounce these words? Вкусно, вторник, повторить, Маяковский, юбка, вообще, улыбка, ложка, кружка, сказка, сладкий, лодка. And now look at these words. Because we're devoicing consonants at the end of Russian words, the preceding consonant will assimilate and become voiceless as well. And it will make it much easier to pronounce them. Мозг, поезд, гвоздь. And these two words, for example, will sound exactly the same. Грусть, грусть. This frequently used word can be pronounced two ways. Either дождь or дождь, though the latter is considered obsolete by some. I gotta give you a warning. Do not overthink it. This whole idea exists to make pronunciation easier, not to complicate things. I hope you can see that. So it can be boiled down to just one advice. Don't strive to articulate consonants in Russian, where it's hard to do so. And the same will apply to prepositions. Let's say it's a preposition is or v. They both end with voiced consonants. Now, what will happen if the next word starts with a voiceless consonant? Right, is will become is, and v will turn into a f, so that it's easier for us to blend them into the word that follows. Compare, please. In these examples, z in the preposition will stay voiced. Я из Дании. Я из Бразилии. Я из Америки. Я из Австралии. And here, z will become voiceless because it's followed by a voiceless consonant. Я из Канады. Я из Турции. Я из Франции. And if the next word starts with an S, all that you'll hear is just a long sound S. Я из Словении. Я из Сингапура. Я из США. Из Калифорнии. In both cases, we're blending the preposition into the next word. Prepositions in Russian carry out just an auxiliary mission. They're not independent words, they're just helpers. They're almost never stressed. We attach them to the word that follows and pronounce them together as one. So if you can barely hear them sometimes, that's how it should be. And the same idea will apply to the preposition v. Many beginner students would say в России, в Москве. It should sound more subtle. Я живу в России, в России. You should barely hear the preposition. В Москве, в Москве. Я работаю в больнице, в больнице. В банке. В университете, в университете. Never pronounce prepositions in Russian as separate words. There should be no pause between the preposition and the word that follows. Always pronounce them as one word. And if a word after the preposition starts with a voiceless consonant, V will turn into F. Я живу в Киеве, в Калифорнии, в Париже. Я работаю в кино, в школе, в полиции, в туризме. В прошлый раз, в следующий раз. Notice that, again, you also say раз, not раз. Now let's look at words in which, on the opposite, a voiceless consonant is followed by a voiced one. What will happen then? Right, on the opposite, a voiceless consonant will become voiced. Compare, please. Здесь, сделать. Both words start with the same sound. Зде. Здесь, сделать. Просьба. Вокзал. Афганистан. Отбирать. And how about this phrase? Как дела? You might not even notice, but you're probably already saying g at the end of как, because the next word starts with a voiced consonant. Как дела? And some more phrases. С друзьями, с берега. Here, s turns into z. And sometimes two consonants will blend into one, like in the phrase «Как вас зовут?» Or in these words «Отдать», «Отдохнуть». Once again, please don't overthink it. These rules are aimed at making Russian pronunciation easier, not do the opposite. And if you're wondering about these letters, well, they don't affect the pronunciation of neighboring consonants in any way. And they don't get devoiced themselves either, for they don't have any voiceless counterparts. Врач. V sounds as V. Врач. Вместе. Внуки. Знак. Крошка. Пример. Среда. Слава. Снова. Парк. Торт. Pay special attention to an S next to an N. Many students, especially native German speakers, tend to pronounce Z instead of S there. A common mistake is to say прекрасно, чудесно. So remember that L, M, N, R do not affect neighboring consonants in any way. So it would be correct to say прекрасно, чудесно, снова, снег, sn, not zn. Check yourself with the following phrases and give me some more examples in a comment below.